When people sometimes use this vocabulary, they have a decision to make and they say, let me think about it. Saying, I feel unprepared to give you my response, and so I need some time to reflect. And this is just a natural thing that we do in life. Or a person says, well, I need to, sometimes now we've gotten used to using a different vocabulary, I need to access my inner wisdom. The issue is, when someone says that, what do they actually do to gain that access? This is a very central consideration in our practice of Neelakantha meditation, because the inner spaces of awareness are filled with, we could say, old furniture, see, old remnants of many different things. The deepest spaces beyond those warehouses of past experience that the tradition calls the samskaras, or the vasanas, the residual traces of past experience, when we're able to pierce and penetrate beyond those places that are filled and accumulated with the sort of the residual vibratory traces of all of our past experiences, then we can touch a kind of live current of uncontaminated and reliable and authentically universal surging of true knowledge from deep inside ourselves. But if we can't pierce beyond that, many times when a person says, well, I'm going to turn within and see, what we wind up encountering, what a person typically winds up encountering, is merely a deeper level of the traces of past experience. And indeed, this is most often what happens in life. We make a choice based on the inner energies of predilections that move in the direction, in one case, of likes, in the other case, of dislikes. So we move toward things or we move away from things. And those movements of choice many times are structured out of a kind of interaction with everything else that's ever happened to us in our life. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that we're not truly accessing a place of universal knowledge when we do that. We're accessing a kind of debris field of past experience, some of which may have authentic structures of understanding and of hard-won experiences, etc., and so on, that we are accumulating inside ourselves. But some of it may simply be arenas of a kind of unconscious reactivity structured out of past experiences of pain, of suffering, trauma, even deprivation, or various other forms of negative life experience that tinge or color, obscure, or create obstacles to a clear flowing of a deeper current of wisdom from inside. So our practice of Neelakantha meditation, then, in addition to the 10,000 other things that it accomplishes for us spontaneously, begins to clean out those warehouses of accumulated past impressions, particularly of suffering, of negative past experience. And in so doing, and it permits us to begin to hover and drift, as it were, in exquisite, much deeper places than ordinarily a person would go to when a person says, I'm consulting my inner voice. We're not looking for something outside ourselves when we turn within. Sequences of spontaneous wisdom, insight that accumulate and coalesce and shape themselves inside us and surge up into our surface mind as forms of precise and reliable guidance from deep within. It's not coming from some other person, as it were. We're not channeling something in some way, in the way that that word is understood these days. We are receiving clearly without a kind of loss of signal strength, so to speak, and without a contamination and a sort of a diminution of that impulse. Something that is arising from a universal place deep inside ourselves. That space of the self, if we could but access it increasingly deeply, contains all knowledge. The tradition speaks about sarvajñatva, this term, all knowingness, all knowledge. Now that knowledge, as it is contained at that deepest level, is almost unmanifest. It is almost the same as the absolute consciousness itself in terms of being formless. And so the skill and the technique and the methodology of summoning specific portions or aspects or dimensions of knowledge from inside ourselves and inviting that knowledge to shape itself and coalesce into a certain avenue of life, a certain theme, a certain inquiry or question that we may be posing to ourselves, and feeling increasingly that what we're accessing is not just our own opinions, is not just our own reactivity based on past positive and negative experiences. It's not just the voice of our parents or our teachers or what we read in the newspaper or heard on the radio or television or whatever. It's something else. It's the true voice of the self itself.